To be here today, and I'm going to be sharing some of my thoughts on goal management. So few things I'm going to be covering in about 15-20 minutes. I'll be talking about benefits and the importance of having goals at work. I'll share a little bit on how great goals look like, a little bit about cascading, the different types of cascading we have, how can managers help directs achieve their goals, whether they are professional or their development goals. We've all heard of SMART, but I'll introduce a new concept that I read about called SMARTER. And I'll actually end with sharing some information about how Harbinger, how we do it at office, and how we actually set goals and how we make our goals and are as transparent as possible. So this is a lovely saying that I read on the internet, and I thought I would put it up for everybody to see. And it's really relevant because if you start off on the wrong direction, you will probably not reach the destination that you're supposed to go to. I mean, take an example. If I'm given a goal to drive, say, from Pune to Mumbai in 4 hours, and I start driving really fast, and by 3 hours I'm done. But after those 3 hours, I realized that I've started off in the wrong direction, and instead of going to Mumbai, I've actually reached Nasik. So I may have met my parameters, or beaten my parameters. Instead of 4 hours, I've reached in 3 hours, but my destination is completely wrong. So actually, I've not met my, goal to speak. There are many benefits, of setting, goals in an organization. I've just picked up 3. I think organizational discipline is really important because, that keeps everybody focused on the right direction. Just giving example, if cost optimization is one of the focus or one of the goals of an organization, then everybody focuses on cost optimization. On the other hand, if we have, product innovation, or whether it's of our products or of our services, then everybody focuses on innovation. Now, if we set effective goals, we'll also be able to forecast what, resources and what investment we need. So in case a goal of mine, say, is to expand or start a new office in a new geography, then I'd need to figure out whether, in this new geography, I need to hire somebody. How many people do I need to hire? What kind of training I'll need to give these people? What kind of investment I'll have to work in learning and development, in marketing? So basically, it gives me an idea of how much I'll need in terms of resources. And then obviously, if we have effective goal setting, our employees will be engaged because they'll know what to do. They'll know exactly what is engaged from them. If people, don't know what is expected from them, they may actually get confused. They may work towards something that's not relevant or something in the wrong direction. Like I said, instead of going to Mumbai, I end up going to Nasik, and that's really going to be demotivating for them. So these are 3 areas where I feel an organization can really benefit if we select, good goals. Now, as an employee, goals are really important, and all of us have heard of, or many of us have heard of Gallup, a very well-known global organization, and they did a lot of research spread over around 30 years, and I think they covered about 16-17 million employees. And Gallup, as a part of this survey, they identified 12 core areas that best predict employee and work group engagement. And to these questions or these surveys, the first one that came out was, I know what is expected out of me. I know what is expected out of me was the fundamental question. So that is exactly what we talk about as goals. There was another study done by Edwin Locke and Gary Latham, and in that research, they showed that setting specific and challenging goals led to better performance as compared to easy goals. Now, many people think that if I set an easy goal and I achieve it, I'll be motivated and I'll be very happy. But that research actually showed the opposite. They said if your goal is kind of challenging, then you're probably going to be more motivated. And a part of that research, they not only confirmed the link between goals and performance, like I just said, but they also went out to outline 5 characteristics of effective goal setting, which was clarity, challenge, commitment, feedback, and complexity. And these 5 principles eventually evolved into the SMART approach, which we all know so well. And obviously, better planning, communication, etc. It really helps because you're going to have interim check posts with your manager. You're going to sit down and see whether things are going on track, whether I'm on the right course, or if I'm deviating, do I need a small correction? And based on this, things can be worked out, development plans can be worked out. So looking at these, 3-4 things, I really feel that goals are pretty important to employees. Cascading is basically passing the goal from one level to the other level. That's as simple as it is. And this is a practice that is employed by quite a few organizations. Manager sets a goal and passes some elements of that goal to his or her directs. And there are 2 types of cascading. You have downward and you have upward cascading. As of now, I believe that downward cascading is a little more popular, and it's used more by managers as compared to upward cascading. In downward, it's very simple. The manager just transmits the goals to the directs. So by doing this, the manager's goals are kind of aligned to the directs, and you expect the same kind of outcome. There's one word of caution or advice while downloading cascaded goals, which is the manager should not take the entire goal and cascade the entire goal. That has to be broken down into achievable paths for the direct. On the other hand, upwarding cascading is when directs set their own goals and they expect that these goals, their individual goals, will kind of roll up into their manager's goals. Now while doing this, you need to take a little bit of care in this, because at times if the employee or the direct is given a complete free hand to set their goals, they may decide to set goals that they find interesting and challenging, which is good. It's good to have interesting and challenging goals. But eventually, these goals may not roll up to the organization. And as a result of that, there could be a misalignment of goals between the individual, the manager, and the organization. So what many managers actually do to avoid this misalignment is they give the employee a document of the organizational goals or the manager's goals. And they set a boundary and they say, within this particular framework, please go ahead and set your individual goals. And then what the manager does is he or she will consolidate these goals, make tweaks wherever necessary, go back and communicate these changes back to their directs, and then create their own goals. So this is how upward cascading works. It works extremely well when you have a rather flat organization. And in upward cascading also, one benefit is there because is that since the direct himself or herself is setting a goal, they take more ownership of this because it's done by themselves. So when managers are actually cascading goals to their directs, a few points need to be considered. Obviously, they need to be able to do the work. So if something is not within their current scope or current responsibility, it becomes very difficult. For example, for an HR manager, reducing defects in a product may not be always a valid goal, because as an HR manager, I may not have control over a product. So that's important. Obviously, having the right tools and resources are extremely important. So if I'm given a large project of data research, I may need 2 or 3 people to help me. So I may need to build a team. So in that way, I need to have the resources and tools available to me to meet my goals. Obviously, time is really important. And many times we hear this, that I didn't have sufficient time or time was not enough. So time really needs to be given sufficiently. There should be a challenge, obviously, but there should be sufficient time. Goals obviously should be reasonable. The challenge of a stretch goal is very great. It feels really good to have a stretch goal, but having something that is, very unreasonable or impossible, having an impossible target will really be frustrating. And that actually will be demoralizing for the employee. So have something that is reasonable. And then last but not the least, managers, if they are cascading goals to their directs, should be there to provide coaching and guidance, because this is going to be needed, by the direct, when they need help to kind of achieve their goals. So Gary Latham's survey kind of evolved into SMART, and I'm not going to talk about SMART because all of us are very smart and we know SMART. But there are some ways in which great goals look like. Obviously, SMART, which we just spoke about. Goals, they should be manageable in number, because many times an organization sets or a manager sets too many goals for a direct, and at times achieving these goals can be quite overwhelming, because there are so many goals for the direct to achieve. The direct just keeps on trying to parallelly achieve goals, dipping in and out of each goal, trying to figure out what's happening, and eventually not much progress is made for all the goals. So setting a reasonable number of goals is good. If you ask me what is a reasonable number, I think anywhere between 5 to 6 goals per person, I think is something that should be manageable. And obviously, goals should kind of address both business results as well as personal development. I'll talk about personal development a little ahead, but it's important to cover both these aspects. This is really important. We shouldn't confuse our job responsibilities with goals. Many times we do that. Let me give you an example. An example could be, we may have a goal to be in the top 5 in a best employer survey in that particular year, right? So we want to be in the top 5 best employers in a particular year. Now that's a goal. How are we going to achieve those goals? We're going to achieve those goals by doing certain activities. For example, we may want to do better people connect, or we may want to enhance our upward and downward communication in the organization. We may want to have better feedback mechanisms and implement these suggestions that come from team members. We may want to have better development programs laid out for our employees. So there are many, many activities that happen for me to achieve my goal. So that's what I meant about confusing job responsibilities and goals. So that is something that you need to keep in mind when you're actually setting goals. Yeah, so this is fun. Actually, SMART we all know about, but is there actually room to actually reflect our culture of the organization? So can we replace S by stretch, or having a significant goal or a synergistic goal? Instead of measurable, can we have a meaningful goal or a motivating goal? Can A get replaced by accountable? Instead of being realistic, can we have results oriented? And instead of having a time bound goal, can we have something that is actually tangible or thoughtful goal? So these are actual ways in which you can modify, or you can adopt the SMART mechanism or the SMART philosophy and actually make it a little smarter. There was also a person by the name of Glenn Hughes, who is the global learning director for KL or Tencor, and he came up with the concept of having SMART, but SET, or set SMART goals. So does it scare the competition? So that's what S stands for. Does it engage the employee? And does it thrill the customer? So if you add these 3 letters to your SMART goals, it's kind of completely going to change the way you set goals. For example, how do I scare my competition? If I'm really in a cutthroat industry and I say I'm going to add, say, 3 innovative product lines in the next 2 months, it's really going to scare my competition. They're going to have to do something to kind of, confront what I'm going to be doing. How can I engage my employees? Suppose I say that my goal is going to be the top employer of choice in this particular year. That could actually thrill the employee. Or customers. Suppose I'm dealing with customers where I don't have an office, and I come to a customer in Singapore and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to open up an office in Singapore because of you, and I'm going to ramp up that office to 50 people in 6 months' time. My customer is definitely going to be thrilled. So think about this way also of setting SET SMART goals in your goal plan. So for employee development, this is what I said I would speak about. You actually should, consider the employees' competencies and skills to grow in their future roles. Their career aspirations need to be looked at. But having said that, you kind of have to map the career aspirations and the organizational, future needs. There should be some relation. There could be an example or a situation where an employee says, you know what, I want to be the automobile product head in maybe 2 years' time. but the organization may be actually planning to shut down an automobile product line. So there's going to be a conflict. There's going to be a problem over here if that person has specific goals which is not going to be achieved. So that's what you need to take in mind. And also, when you're working with each individual, the manager and employee should think of some ways in which questions are going to be asked on how they're going to develop their goals. So, obviously some questions can be asked of, if I'm going to do something differently, what do I need to master to, expand or become better in my current role? How am I going to progress to my career aspirations? If I do something new, I take on some development goal, how is this going to help me prepare for extended responsibilities, etc. Talking about, making goals manageable and attaining, there are the concept of milestones, and you have something called tasks. So if a goal is really large or it's kind of longish in nature, you may want to break that down into chunks and kind of achieve those, in small bits. If people say, how long should you or how frequently should you look at these milestones? I'd say if a goal is kind of annual in nature, you should check in your milestones at least every quarter to see how you're doing and whether you need to take some course correction. Let me give you an example of milestone, and I'll use the milestone example from the recently concluded T20 series that we saw. So a milestone of a T20 match, for example, could be, by the 5th over, we should restrict the opposition to 50 runs and take 2 wickets. That's the 5th milestone. By the 10th over, opposition should not score more than 80 runs, and we should add 3 more wickets. So 2 plus 3, 5 wickets we should take. So we know exactly at every step whether we are at our milestones, whether we're achieving our milestones or we're not achieving our milestones. Apart from milestones, you can also set tasks. So these are nothing but checklists or activities that we need to complete to make sure that we achieve our goals. And coming back to the same example of the T20 match, for the first 5 overs, we may have the task of saying, we're going to make sure the field placement in the first 5 overs is aggressive. We're also going to make sure that our quickies will bowl 2 overs first, and then our spinners will come in and bowl 5 overs. So doing this, we're actually setting tasks and activities which we are going to make sure will kind of help us achieve our goals. So there are a lot of goal management softwares available in the market. You have the large players. So you have the SuccessFactors, Workday, Oracle, Cornerstone. You have the medium and upcoming players as well. You have Zenefits, you have Bamboo HR, you have smaller companies like OwnSpan. So if you do a quick Google check, I'm sure you'll find out a lot of organizations who have goal management software. So how do we do it at Harbinger? So we work with SAP SuccessFactors and have been doing so for the last 4 years. And I'm actually going to show you screenshots of our goal management software. So this is how it looks. And I've just kind of showed you my profile. So the one beautiful thing is you can actually view your previous goal plans. So right from 2014 till this year, if I want to figure out which goals I was working on and the details of that goal, I have the option of doing that. So that's a cool feature. How do I set a goal on SuccessFactors? There are multiple ways. There are 3 ways actually of setting a goal. You can see that over there. Sometimes I may not want to enter a goal because sometimes a goal may carry forward from one year to the other. So I may decide to copy a goal plan from say 2017 to my current year 2018 and just make modifications in the date. So it's adding to my productivity because I'm not retyping everything. I'm just copying something. The other way is obviously using the SMART methodology. So, it will ask me specific questions about what is your objective. If I go to measurable, it'll ask me to add metrics towards that and so on and so forth. And here there's a different way of adding goals. What we've also built in SuccessFactors is a library of goals. This is nothing but goals that are categorized based on your role, and it actually helps you or pre-populate certain things. So for example, in self-development, if I want to pick up these 2 goals, this is how it will look. There's another feature which is private and public. So if I tag a goal as public, everybody in the organization can see that goal. But if I tag a goal as private, then only me and my manager can see that particular goal. So coming back to the goal, I kind of set the goal, I add the metrics, I put in my start date, end date. There you can see milestones. So we have the concept of adding milestones. There's also something called a spell check and a legal scan. Spell check we all know about. But if as an organization, I want to kind of restrict the use of certain words because of whatever reason, I mean IP or whatever, I can tag those particular words, and when I put those words in my goal, it will flag those words. So that's another feature that is there. Like I said, we have milestones. We also have tasks. So I can put down each task. And what is also great is I can update my goals on a continuous basis. Right? So if you look on the right side, I can edit my goals on a continuous basis. So from 20% completed, I can make it 40% completed. I can change my goal status to on track, completed, behind, etc. If I want to have a discussion with my manager, I can set this goal to Outlook, and we'll have a discussion with my manager on this particular goal. So there's a lot of transparency that gets built on SuccessFactors. And in the new version of SuccessFactors, they have actually integrated performance management and goal management. And this is a screenshot of our performance appraisal form. You can see goals actually get embedded from your goal form into your performance appraisal form. So there I can see the 4 goals that I have set for myself. And if I expand any of these, I can add comments. So this actually is open throughout the year. So at Harbinger, we don't say that you can only update your goals, every 6 months or once in a year. The goal plan is open for you to update throughout the year. So as an employee, as a direct, if I want to add my comments anytime, I can do that. As soon as I do that, my manager gets a notification saying that Neville has updated a particular goal. And similarly, if my manager wants to add any comment or put any observation, he or she can do that. And likewise, I too will get a notification saying that my manager has updated a goal. What this does, it adds tremendous amount of transparency. So rather than waiting for 6 months or 12 months, we are being transparent. Feedback can be put up on a real-time basis. So finally, some of the benefits that we have seen out of the system, the SuccessFactors system, it's really easy. I mean, goal setting is not as hard as what it seems. You can set your goals in multiple ways. We have 3 ways in which you can set it. Telling the entire organization what you're doing. So sometimes actually people come and say, hey, what is this person doing? We can actually go and say, hey, you want to find out? Please go and check his or her goals on SuccessFactors. So public goals, private goals, like I said, they're embedded in the performance management system. So you don't have to toggle between 2 different apps. It's just one app that you use right now. It's also mobile enabled. I forgot to say that. Goals are open, so you don't restrict filling up of goals to a half-yearly form or an annual form. It's ongoing, and it's obviously very transparent. You can see that you can see what your manager is writing in regards to your goals. And finally, using metrics, tasks, and milestones, you can easily track your goal. You can figure out what level of percentage you're at. You can set meetings with your manager to discuss what goals, how you're doing on your goals, what the status is and how course correction is done. So these are some benefits that we've seen out of SuccessFactors, and I think that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys. So in case you have any questions, please do put them on the chat window. But having said that, I think I'll hand over to Mahesh Kharade, my colleague, who is going to talk a little more about artificial intelligence and goals. Mahesh, over to you.
Thank you, Neville. That was really insightful, and I think now that sets up really well in terms of what goals are and how one can use them to manage the overall insights into the goal management platform. So with this, I want to quickly touch upon some of the ways in which artificial intelligence can be used with the existing goal management platform. So as Neville mentioned, I mean, we are using a specific platform for managing the goals for our own set of employees. But being a software services company, we are also working on techniques that can be used along with these goal management platforms, and artificial intelligence is one of it. And before even getting into the specifics, I would just like to quickly talk about 2 or 3 key techniques in artificial intelligence, and then we'll try to see how those relate when it comes to the goal management. So when it comes to the artificial intelligence, it depends a lot on the data that it has that's available to process, and based on the data, the technique would also be decided. So there are about 2 or 3 key techniques that I think are applicable to many HR applications and to the goal management as well. So first is machine learning, which is more about learning from the past data and using it for making certain decisions. Second technique is about natural language processing, where it involves processing a lot of natural language data and then making meaning or getting some interpretation out of it. And the third technique primarily used is analytics or the advanced analysis, which is basically, again, get more insights from the information or the data that exists in these platforms, and then use it for certain predictions or sentiment analysis and cases, things like that. So these are like 3 key techniques I have seen that we are using it with most of the platforms that we're working for our customers. And now let's see how that applies in the context of goal management platforms. Now again, what I have on the screen is, I would say, all of this Neville touched upon during his presentation, but it was more from how you kind of approach it as a practitioner. But I would now want to look at it in terms of the data that it is generating. So the goal objectives, as Neville mentioned, it can start all the way from organization to the peer level, and this is basically talking about what that goal is and what we plan to achieve and all of that. So it's more of a description that we are trying to put around the goal. As the name suggests on the next topic, goal descriptions are again something that's a detailed information about that particular goal for an individual. Milestones are something, or the milestone details captures a lot of data or details about how one is doing against that particular goal. As it is broken into the milestone, it has a lot of information about the progress that is made, some of the issues that are identified, some of the situations that are encountered, how somebody solved those, and all of that. So there's a lot of data that is getting captured there as well, along with the times and the dates and all of that, which these platforms makes it available to us to capture. Task descriptions are again something that where the individuals would put in details around how they performed on the tasks, whether it was successful, whether it failed, and any reasons, comments, all of that. And employee and manager comments is again another section where there's a lot of information that is submitted by both employee and manager. So in overall, if you look at this, what we are trying to capture here is a lot of text, is something that either manager or employee has entered into the platform. And conventionally, the goal management platforms would make use of these details just to track the goals and the overall results. But some of the information that is there in these descriptive attributes is something that is, I think, is still not used to its fullest. And that's where I think the AI can come handy. And as we looked at, like on the first slide, one of the technique that is natural language processing, which is there to process the human-generated natural the language data in a way, whatever descriptions that are getting saved in these attributes, essentially something that one would describe, one would write. So it's a human language that is used to describe that information, and that's where I think natural language processing is a technique that we can use to get more information, more insights from the details that are captured as a part of these goal management platforms and the interfaces. So before you now that I think so the nature of the data aspect that we talk is important, and based on that the NLP is going to be very important as it comes to the goal management platforms. To just get more details around how it can be used, before getting into the specifics of goal-specific platforms. Let me give you a quick example. So at Harbinger, we have developed a framework which essentially makes use of NLP, and we call it Quillians. So as name suggests, it's there to generate questions. And this is the same framework that we are also working with our customers to apply for the goal management scenarios. So what Quillians does is, in the nutshell, it is there for processing the learning content. So it's a semi-structured content. It could be a lesson, it could be a web page, it could be a PDF document talking about a particular topic, and so on. So it's essentially something an instructional designer would use to create a learning content and questions out of it. So this is where we are using a natural language processing engine that we have built as a part of the framework, and the output that we get is the summary. So if there's a topic which has about 10 paras into it, this framework can be used to create a summary based on it. So it will go look for the content and try to find out the key statements, key information that exists in the in those paragraphs, and then we'll create a summary out of it, which otherwise the instructional designer would have to go through the details and then create on his or her own. Multiple choice questions is another important output, where by looking at the content, the engine is able to predict the key statements, convert them into questions, find out the right answer, and then the probable answers which may be wrong inputs, and then create a multiple choice questions out of it. Similarly, true and false questions, fill in the blanks. So it is able to process the content that exists, understand it, and then create these different type of the output that we see on the screen. And I think the same technique we can use for goal management as well, or the goal data that we are collecting, where the same thing can be used to interpret the information that is captured in those descriptive fields, and then create some intelligent reports out of it. So the reports that we get today are more or less attribute driven, which talks about the overall goal status, how we are doing on the timelines and all of that. But there's a lot of hidden information that we can use this technique and then generate those intelligent reports. When I say those intelligent reports, let's try to understand what that report may look like. And so first thing is automatic classification of goals. So at certain point, Neville talked about having like org level objectives and then defining that through a goal and then kind of getting it all the way down. But still, when somebody creates, when the goals are getting created across the organization, are we really in line? I mean, it will show that, okay, you have used the downward approach and the goals are in line. But if somebody wants to get a high level view in terms of what are the different categories in which these goals are classified, that information is not available. And we can use the NLP to easily classify the goal objectives that everyone has set up and have a classification created. So it can happen at the team level, at dog level, at department level, and so on. So by reading that data, by processing that using NLP, we can create those categories and classify those goals very easily. The second case is the summary generation, where now we had a feature in SuccessFactors where we looked at you can carry forward the goals from the last year. So if there are goals where you want to work upon across like over a certain number of years, then this summary would help, because you don't need to go through the details like every time you want to look back. You can have these summaries created by NLP engine and hand it to manager as well as employees, so they get to see what happened in last few years very quickly. Then the third is sentiment analysis of the comments. There's a lot of comments that are put in by manager as well as employee. So at the org level, you want to see if it is going in the right direction, whether there's a right, it all has to happen on the positive note. Is there a good positive sentiment around what all we are doing through the goals? And that's where the sentiment analysis can come handy. And then the assisted task generation. Tasks are important activities which help you achieve those goals. And then by looking at what is happening through the milestones and overall objectives, that data can be used to suggest tasks that, okay, manager can have some list handy saying, okay, to achieve these goals, these are the tasks that one need to go through and assign them. So that assistance on those task generation can also be done using NLP. So that's a quick insights into like how these advanced reports can be using the data that we have captured using these different goal management activities. I mean, that's more or less how we are applying AI for goal management. And I'll take a minute just to quickly give you a glimpse of how AI is getting used across different HR modules. So not just to limit it to the goal management. And this is where the recruitment is one area where the recommendation engine or pattern matching based on the machine learning and NLP is getting used. So like when candidates are searching for the jobs, they get right recommendations based on their profile, where NLP matches their resumes and job descriptions and give them a better recommendation rather than just depending on key fields that used to be marked before. So that's not one of the area where we see lot of traction where AI is getting used. Pattern matching is also used for kind of once the candidates are sourced, to make sure the recruiters are getting right profiles to forward them into the next steps into the recruitment. Pattern matching is another technique in AI that's used. Employee engagement, we're collecting a lot of feedback from employees, using it to collect that and process it, identify sentiments out of it, is where machine learning is used, which is another AI technique. And then in core HR succession planning, anomaly detection, you can make use of a lot of historical data through performance management platforms and the other modules, and use it to predict what could be your succession plan for the key positions or any anomalies that you have from the past. And as we know, like a lot of workflows exist in the current HR applications, and they can be very well simplified using like technique like conversational interface, which is basically a chatbot helping you manage your time offs or a ticketing system. So chatbot taking care of a lot of activities that are very common, where really it can be automated easily using AI, and like HR don't need to spend their time on. So these are some of the additional areas where we are using AI for kind of making our customers' HR applications more intelligent. With this, it brings to the end on my end, and I'll hand it over to Vinod. I hope this was helpful and you could get some good information on AI techniques. Vinod, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Neville. Thanks, Mahesh. I think it was insightful, especially like the way you actually took us through the whole of how you're using SuccessFactors as an application to take care of your HR needs. And I think the insights that you captured in terms of letting us know how you're using your goal framework, how important it is to move forward in terms of making the goals smarter, not only smart, but smarter. And then various technology innovations that you are bringing on the table in terms of looking at how best to engage your employees in your organization was especially very, very interesting. So what I'll do is, let me just take over from here. Possibly all of you can see my screen. I'm going to talk about another dimension to HR, and what we at SAP are also trying to do with SAP SuccessFactors application, and why we think some of these concepts are important. So what I'm going to talk about today is all about how purpose actually drives people, and how you will have to actually align with your people's purpose in order to make them very productive as well as engaged with your organization. And that becomes one of the important factors for you to have a greater engagement index from an employee perspective for your organization. So while we talk about purpose, let me just start off with what we are doing inside SAP, right? If you look at SAP and the purpose that we are here today in the market for, our purpose is to help the world run better and improve people's lives. So that's a summary of the existence of SAP and the purpose for which we are actually in the market. And of course, every organization as well as every individual would have a purpose, and based on the purpose, you would also go ahead and make a promise for which you will strive as an organization to keep the promises that you have made. And based on your market conditions and the business opportunity, you also need to keep on making promises going forward as well. So that is where all your organizational systems, applications, and processes are to be concentrating on. Number one, aligning to the purpose of people, your customer, your community, and the world that you're operating in. Second, make promises based on your purpose. keep the promises, don't break the promises, but keep the promises very, very healthy. And of course, be healthy as an organization to keep on making newer promises so that you can be relevant in the market today, right? So having said that, let me just go through and then talk about a couple of things as to what are those trends and predictions that are actually keeping HR managers awake in the night today, especially from what is happening around the world. Of course, we heard very insightful information around how AI, ML, NLP, and other techniques and technologies today are disrupting, and how they can be best used in terms of HR applications, which was one of the examples. And you also get to hear a lot of other examples from SAP as a company as well, when we talk about intelligent ERP, when we talk about our Leonardo portfolio, etc. But that's on a discussion for a different day. But today, what we are looking at from a HR trends and predictions perspective is to look at three things importantly. One, the workforce agility is challenging HR as an organization. The most critical concept in HR is to look at the agility of the workforce so that you can align with the latest technologies and stuff like that. Second, the staffing complexity is actually increasing. When you look at the overall total workforce of your organization, the right amount of mix in terms of diversity, right amount of mix in terms of your skills, competencies, etc., needed to be aligned to your corporate objective is becoming complex. And number three, experience of work, the kind of people that you deal with today, the kind of workforce that you are building today, you will have to be really innovative in terms of how to better engage or best engage your workforce so that their personal purpose is aligned with your organization's purpose and the goals due to which you exist as an organization. So while these three are very important and have been troubling HR as an organization, companies have found a way to connect their people with company's purpose. As I said, SAP's purpose is to help the world run better and improve people's lives. All our product strategy, etc., is aligned towards this particular purpose. So when we do that, at least we see a lot of progress in terms of how we engage our employees. Along with that, there are also quantitative business benefits that organizations are going to witness. It could be in terms of increase in sales, it could be in terms of employee retention, or it could be in terms of employee engagement. So while all these are quantitative indicators that come by virtue of you aligning with your employees and their purpose, what is really important is for you to look at an integrated approach to your total workforce experience. The talent experience or the talent engagement or your employee engagement has no start or an end throughout the life cycle of your employees. The total workforce experience is what matters. It starts from attracting the right people in the market, engaging them well, onboarding them based on the criteria and the purpose and the suitability to the job. Then you will have to keep on engaging with them in terms of looking at their performance, giving them a learning advantage, giving them the learning interventions at an appropriate time, working hand in hand with employees' purpose and the development options that are available within you as an organization. And all of this has to happen collaboratively throughout the life cycle of the employee. Some of the experiences are actually given in the second section of the screen here, where we talk about some of those tangible business processes or tangible engagement opportunities that are available for you as an organization. It could be understand total rewards program. How can you offer a better rewards program? Or it could be around managing your own assets. While you're onboarding an employee, how can you ensure that all of the assets that are required for an employee to start his day one at your company is going to be available for him without any hitch? It could be as simple as a booking travel and expense process, which becomes very, very important if you have a mobile workforce that is working for you because of your business needs. It could be purchasing of stuff that are required for your employees to be productive on a day-to-day manner. Or it could be aligning with your employee's purpose and giving him or her an option to manage productivity or a project of his or her choice, so that they see that their development needs are actually addressed by you as an organization, right? While we talk about all of these avenues that are available there, what is fundamentally important for you is to look at how scalable can your IT systems be. IT systems are no more remaining as an IT system, rather they are more business systems in place, and they are to be intelligent by virtue of looking at all the intelligent technologies that are playing a role in today's world. And what we are talking about here is that 36% of overall employees say that they would leave for a job with a more digitally progressive employer. People would have a perception about you as an organization, and it is very, very important for you to live up to the expectations of your employees and tackle that particular employee engagement index. I'm not going to spend too much of time out here, but just a glimpse of why SuccessFactors is in the middle of this particular disruption and help you as an organization to deliver better in terms of your employee engagement and the aspirations of your employees, is where we talk about aligning your workforce to your organization's purpose by virtue of having a solid platform which doesn't help you to innovate on your own, but which is actually bringing all the innovative technologies as a platform onto you, and it will expect you to go back, have those conversations with your people, which is the most important asset for you, and then come back and align with your people well, so that you get to gain from being a very good employer of choice, right? While we say that, SuccessFactors has been in existence for the last 14.5 years, and we have seen success, and of course we are happy that many of our customers like Harbinger has been innovating on the platform, using the platform really well to make sense of all the HR policies that they would want to implement for their organization. And the same success has been seen across multiple verticals and industries across India and elsewhere as well. And this is only a sample list of customers that have been able to innovate and align their HR processes well with SuccessFactors as an application. These are some of the numbers in terms of what amount of volume goes through our system. We have close to around 100 million plus users enabled on SuccessFactors as a platform. We have close to around 49 million plus performance and goals users that are there. Only because we made our application to be very, very adaptable, we ensure that you can start anywhere in terms of looking at a small requirement in HR which is important for you, and then you can expand the landscape of HR by virtue of adding more capabilities on SuccessFactors as a platform. So that's where you as a customer get a choice of looking at your business priority and then deploying an HR application that's very, very focused in order to address that particular need. I'm not going to speak through all of these numbers, but the numbers speak for themselves in terms of stability, in terms of innovation, and a quarterly innovation cycle is what stands us out in terms of competition, by virtue of being able to innovate on a quarterly basis year on year for the last 14.5 years has been only possible because of the large ecosystem of partners that we have, large ecosystem of customers that we have, and a constant feedback that comes to us from what is working and what is not working. And that's where we have been able to capture the latest innovations that are of use for you as an HR organization, and then being able to innovate on a quarterly basis, right? So that's for now, that's a brief on what I wanted to discuss with you.